Thank you, Madam Mayor. In introducing our budgets, I set the backdrop similar to Councillor Green, but it's a very different story to what he talks about. When we first came into this administration, having won over 50% of the popular vote and being the largest party, we took that mandate and took it on minority administration. We were set a very difficult task. As you know, the first thing we actually brought on the budget was a £5.3 million overspend. And by the way, when we moved our budget, not like when they moved their budget last year, the blue book was available, the gold page was available, all the correct facts were there, and all the officers and budget headings were there, and people were informed. So to make out it was rushed. Theirs was rushed last year. We didn't get the blue books till 2 months after the budget had been set, and that is supposed to be them in charge of good corporate governance. So, £5.3 million overspend. We had 1,200 people who had gone out of the organisation, 1,200 jobs lost, not one restructuring plan in place when we inherited that situation. They were sent out, by the way, well, every single one was asked or forced, whichever way you want to look at it, sign a compromise agreement. Yes. Oh yes, isn't that right? 1,200 people out of this organisation, 20% of the workforce, no restructuring plans in place. So the first thing we said, we're going to get those plans in place, we're going to try and bed the service down with the numbers of people we have, and we're still not quite there yet. So we offered, as an administration, stability and a way of moving forward for the organisation as best we could, whilst listening to the wants and asks of the public out there. But the organisation needs stability, steadying down, and those restructuring plans put in place and to settle down. That's why our budget doesn't make any direct attack on jobs. The Conservative budget does. It's made a quite clear commitment to find some of the money they want to cut the wage bill by nearly £2.5 million. £2.5 million off the wage bill. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or an accountant or to be clever. If you're cutting the wage bill, you're cutting the number of people who are going to be paid. And that equates to around about 70 jobs that will be frozen. 70 jobs will be lost as a result of their budget. 70 jobs on the back of 1,200. We haven't done that. We wanted stability. We wanted the structures to be able to be maintained and to be kept in hand. So 1,200 jobs gone, and what do we get from their budget? A further 70. So that's the situation we inherited. We then put back some of the things that they took away. Having got rid of 1,200 people, they then arbitrarily removed the EDR scheme from the standard it was. It's not the most generous, having worked in the private sector, by nowhere near the most generous EDR scheme that we have in this council. But they reduced that even further to one of the worst. And I thought that was unforgivable. Having seen those other people go out of the organisation on a better scheme, anyone who was to go later, such as the 70 exactly in their budget, would have gone on a less scheme. So we reintroduced that. We got faith and we got some respect back from those involved. So our budget is a sound budget. It's understandable. Councillor Green talks to the public as though he is frozen council tax. And that was the ask from Bob Beale. I've seen the letter myself in Wirral. He wrote to anyone on Wirral. You must freeze council tax this year. We have done that, but we have done that even with the extra on the precept. So ours is naught. It's a bit like the Ron Seal budget. It says what it does on the tin. It delivers a 0% increase. Nobody will pay any more as a result of our budget. However, when you look into the fine print of their budgets, though he claims that he is setting a 0% council tax, he has actually not taken into account the precepting authorities, of which he whipped and instructed his members through a notice of motion not to allow any increase, not to allow vital fire cover for residents of Wirral, not to allow more police officers or police officers on the beat in Wirral. He instructed his members to go for growth and not have an increase on any of those precepting authorities. I think that is an absolute disgrace to instruct members not to look after people's safety from fire and not to look after people's safety from crime. There are two big issues that are out on the street. You ask anyone, people would be prepared to pay a minimum amount more to actually increase and protect their families and loved ones from crime and fire. To instruct his members to do that, I thought was well out of order. So on to our budget. It's based sound. He talks about the issue around day service. Let's be quite clear. We set forward a consultation process around day services based on the elements of the CQC report about the type of offer we were giving to our people. It wasn't sitting in day centres, it was type of employment, more varied opportunities. So the fallout from that is that there would need to be less day service places or more places in other areas. However, I didn't interrupt you. However, we have, I didn't interrupt you. However, we have not quite finished that piece of work, and we have made sure that that is bridged for a full year. If we can't get forward with the other offers that are in place, then we have a chance to review. So to say that our budget closes or shuts day centres is incorrect. We are taking the assumption of the officers and the strategic change programme and all the other bits of information and the policy that they have voted for wasn't called in, that there will be an assumption of less day services. Having done that, though, we have replaced within our budget an unspecified figure called Early Intervention Fund of 2 million. And that is about stopping people going into more expensive care, perhaps in adults, intervening in issues for children and so on. It's about spending money early on in people's life cycle to stop it becoming more expensive for the council in the future. That was just taken away, thrown away and spread around on some of the schemes. Some of the laudable schemes, I have no doubt about it, they seem laudable, but that money was there to do all sorts of different things to prevent further expenditure for the council. This is the key. So where else did he get his money from? Oh, I know. We've got a £78 million budget gap predicted as a result of your coalition government's cuts. £78 million in the next 2 years. That's what we can predict now. God knows what the government will think if we're given 3% cuts in council tax. They'll think we're washing money. We may even get hit even harder in the financial government settlement because we're being irresponsible market. But they move from, and it's a bit of a clue in the name of this fund, Madam Mayor. It's called the Efficiency Investment Fund. The Efficiency Investment Fund. It invests in efficiency to save you money in the future. So what have they done? They've just taken 2.5 billion of that, taken it away, and give it on what we are describing as a pre-election bribe. And that's the only way it can be. So, let's make it clear, and the press are here to listen and take on board. Their council tax increase has gone up, 0.5% increase on the top line. They are negating that and telling people it's zero. It is untrue. They are giving a one-off rebate this year in the hope that it will furnish them votes in the election. I believe that all those things we've got in our budget should have been protected. But where are they different? And they've protected lots of things in our budget. So it wasn't the worst budget that's been put forward. It wasn't ill thought out because the vast majority of our budget survives. But it's where the money comes from. Where the money comes from to fund some of their issues. And I've mentioned the two, well, there's 3 big issues. The Early Intervention Fund, the Efficiency Investment Fund, and from the wage bill, which will mean jobs. But they've also removed 65 ILM places from our budget, directly removed. Now, I know they want people to work for nothing. We know they want them in regs working for nothing. We know they want to take the benefits away if they don't turn up to work. We know that's their way of looking after people. So people come off the dole queue with no prospect of either a wage or maybe getting. Working is about earning a wage. That's what gives people respect. That's what gives people responsibility. You go to work for a wage. You remove 65 ILM places. So on top of the 70 council jobs, we are now looking at a further 65 jobs that have gone out of our budget automatically. Now that, if a company, imagine this, a company come here and said, we employ 135 people. But we're going to close down tomorrow. We would be wailing and screaming and saying, stay open, we'll give you a grant to stay in the Wirral. But overnight, with the stroke of a pen, they will raise 135 jobs from the local economy by their budget. I think that's unfair, unwise, and downright silly. So, within our budget, it's the only budget on the table, by the way, that makes any prediction of the task that's ahead of us. And we are criticised for financial planning, long-term financial planning. But to pretend that there isn't a crisis around the corner, to pretend there isn't going to be difficult decisions in your life, again, is a con. It really is, Madam Mayor, something of a three-card trick, the opposition, the administration. I'm glad they've kept in the issues of trying to stimulate further investments in New Brighton. And, you know, whilst our administration has been criticised for a whole host of things, we see it through the vast majority of people like Pat Hackett, see it through the vast majority of the investment at New Brighton. At a time when the world is falling apart, we're seeing new investments, new jobs being created in our borough, in one of the treasured parts of our borough. And it's us who suggested the other part of the deal is we enhance the public realm around that to increase and get more tenants on the new premises out there. But they've kept that on board. And, you know, we've been criticised, slagged off, whatever phrase you want to use as being in administration. It was this administration that worked tirelessly with everyone involved in council. But it was us that got the open back to Wirral, and you can see now the open is coming back again in 2014, and the jobs and the investment that will come from that. They're the big ticket items that we, and the legacy we leave behind. And we see that we are capitally investing in that part of the borough to make it a permanent attraction, not just when there's large golf tournaments there, and people are coming back to regular basis following the golf. So there's a whole host of issues that have been kept. One of the important issues that has been overlooked by Councillor Green is the vital resource that we have at Fernley, Best Light Care. In our budget, that is permanently funded, part of the package. So why are you saying we're turning our back on people, vulnerable adults, but actually keeping a valuable resource, a best light resource, known as Fernley? We're keeping that. His budget only recommends keeping it a further year. So what has he got up his sleeve in future years for that particular issue? So ours is based on a well thought out corporate plan that secretly had everybody on board. But it didn't fit the purpose, because it didn't fit that they were in destructive mode and something plan. It predicts the future challenges for this authority. It goes to the core issues, public health, child poverty and investment in jobs during this particular financial crisis. It doesn't increase council tax for anybody. In fact, it's actually a 0.6% reduction, thus protecting every single citizen from an increase from the precincts. So next year, we start our budget procedure, accessible budget procedure, with already an inbuilt increase of council tax to every resident. That's the three-card trick. That's to find the lady, because you can't find it because they're coming up with smoke mirrors, whatever you want to call it. It is a joke of a budget. It's been moved and done in a week because they've seen our budget and seen how good it was, and basically all we've seen is a process of one-upmanship that doesn't do the right thing. It doesn't keep money aside for further efficiencies. It doesn't protect every single citizen. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Actually, it will cut jobs. Physically, it will cut jobs at a stroke. That's what their budget has done, and that's what we will defend. Jobs in the private sector, jobs in the ILM, and jobs within the council services itself. We've also put lots of good ideas in. Fly tipping is an issue. To believe we can tackle on a sustainable basis, can tackle fly tipping by giving bits of money around all the area for us. What we wanted was a specific team funded to get some of these people in court and prosecuted, and tell the public, if you fly tip on Wirral, you will end up in court, and you will end up possibly in prison if you fly tip on the Wirral. But no, they decided to take that money away. That was a specific thing that came through in much of the consultation. The other issue which we have to say, I would love to be able to begin to think about some more sort of discretionary discounts for people. But it's their government, and we know this for a fact, has instructed us to save about £3.6 million on discretionary, they call it, local legislation discretionary discounts. What they're saying is, we're not going to fund any discretionary discounts that you have, such as the over 75, such as the over 70s. If you find extra money at a time when the government is telling us not to increase discretionary discounts, I think it is a bit of a con to pretend that you can begin to introduce others if they're not sustainable. And I think it's wrong to try and cover up their government's mistakes through our budgetary measures. It's not the job of this council to not tell the truth about its future financial prospects. It's our job to spell out we have a tough task. Without anything else further, no, I'll finish that. Without anything else, if their budget does not describe that the 78 million need to be saved in the next 2 years, in fact, we all know in this chamber, if they can't publicly own up to that, then it is what it is. It's a con of a budget, and it is condemning people to a life of poverty.